Is this the end of the US dollar as we know it and a development of a new trade currency? Hello, hi, Sawubona, and welcome to Masha's Safe Space. This is a space where I share my mind in hopes that you will share your mind with me. Welcome. Abanye bayibiza i-New World Order, abanye bathi nje hayi ukhuluma okungatheni, kodwa into esingaqinisekisa ukuthi there are people or countries out there who are challenging the US dollar. We have lived in a world where the US dollar is the dominant currency emhlabeni. Sikhule singazi nokuthi yini dollar lenzani, kodwa besazi ukuthi America is strong and dollar is strong. We've seen the perks and the privileges of being an American citizen, which is afforded by the strength of the US dollar, a superpower. Sibonile ke kodwa ukuthi le superpower le, as much as it does favors for its people, kodwa thina njengama economies amancane adevelopayo, sometimes the US uses the strength of the US dollar as a weapon to impose sanctions on other countries, or ukuthi nje baba control, to impose their beliefs and in many other things on other countries, knowing very well that if you go against the US, you are going against the US dollar, and no one can really afford that. So as we remain humbled by the sanctions we are so afraid of from this superpower, which is the US, I put out a question out there to ask, is it fair for the global trade currency to be a currency of one country, which can decide and act however it pleases because it is the global trade currency? To answer myself right there, I would say no. It is absolutely not fair, because we've seen what, for example, America has done throughout the years. They have a very good track record of how it is just not fair for everyone else. Even in the most recent years, during COVID-19, we saw how instead of solving the issues like every other country which went through, the COVID lockdowns, they decided to print more dollars. And that is why it is important for us to have conversations around the new proposed BRICS currency. The new proposed BRICS currency has been in the news. Everyone is talking about it. Let us dive right into it, and it is into why it is very much important that it is encouraged, at least if all things go well, that this currency actually becomes a reality. You've probably heard it in Masha. Now we so cool mangali BRICS. Yini BRICS. BRICS is actually an acronym for Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. These are 5 countries with leading emerging economies in their region. BRICS is a geopolitical entity with summits and coordinated policies. It has proposed its bill, which they said they will tell us more about it in August this year in their next summit, which will be hosted here in our beautiful land of South Africa. It is obvious to me that this new currency will counterbalance the dominance of the US dollar, considering all of the countries that are involved. Russia, India, and China are already massive manufacturers in the global economy. South Africa is very rich in minerals too. Brazil is also an emerging economy. So with these countries coming together, and also there is a promise of other global, countries joining BRICS, or rather asking to join BRICS. So if you look in the long run, this new currency will definitely counterbalance the US dollar, especially if we get a currency that is backed up by several currencies, maybe, or minerals, commodities, something that is tangible, unlike the US dollar. That would be really, really nice. So without wasting any more time, let us jump right into the advantages, or rather why it would be nice to have this new currency. Nothing is guaranteed, obviously, but if you know anything about history, you know that all great empires eventually fall. So if this is the fall of the US This opens up a new horizon. It's a new dawn for small economies like ours. If all goes well, of course, we have our own political issues within the country. However, this is a beacon of hope for many, many people. The exclusion of the US dollar from trade and investment from countries could decrease the dependence of BRICS bloc economies from the US as a global trade currency. This has implications of promoting trade between BRICS bloc countries or economies using their own currencies, which will then result in a very stable and varied global supply chain. This could mean lower transactional cost in international trade, which increases the competitiveness of the BRICS bloc economies. In recent years, America has become very politically unstable and printing out US dollars. As a result, there are rapid fluctuations in exchange rates and market currencies. If you are from a small economy like ours, you know very well that our economies are very vulnerable. They can't really afford these rapid changes and instabilities. So the introduction of a common currency between the BRIC blocs economies could ensure, or rather bring about, stability in their economies. This stability in turn encourages trade, it encourages investment, it encourages tourism, it encourages so much more between these countries, and it could be expanded to the entire globe depending on the support of this currency from other countries. South Africa has been fighting or trying to fight unemployment for some time now, and a stable economy could ensure low unemployment rates. This stability also comes with stable exchange rates. So this means that if you want to buy cell phones in China from a supplier, it becomes cheaper because there is no US markup. You're not buying it at in a US dollar. It makes it easier for the members to buy property, houses, cars, whatever you want to buy. A good, stable, booming economy boosts customer confidence. It is easier for investors to come into our country and invest their money in hopes that it will grow because they see that that country has got a good, strong economy. An increase in investments means a demand in the currency, and without a doubt, economic growth. Another thing which holds back small developing economies is the issue of debt. So if there's a common currency between BRICS bloc economies, it means that it affords these economies liquidity, as it is reported that this currency will be backed by gold, which is a commodity. It brings back confidence in so many people around the world who are investors and just people, who are interested in how they keep their assets. It is quite interesting that we now again have a currency which is backed by commodities. So this aids into the reason why it is important for the global community to keep speaking about this new proposed currency so that people can remove this veil of just being under the control of one country that keeps abusing everyone, and for some reason it thinks it is the Superman from the Marvel or whatever movies that they create. We all know that this new currency, if it comes, it is going to be challenged heavily by the Americans and its allies. America definitely won't take this one lying down, because if this currency comes and it is successful, without a doubt, America is not in a good position, because inflation is definitely coming to their doors, and probably debts from all of these debts they've been collecting. On the other hand, we've been observing that more and more African leaders are turning away the Americans, or they're turning their backs on the American leaders and their principles or way of living. I'm gonna sign off with a video by our former president Thabo Mbeki, where he is speaking about the new proposed currency and quite encouraging it.
The use of the dollar as an international reserve currency. It's clear, this is part of what is happening, that many countries are saying, in order to avoid this consequence, of the imposition of sanctions by the United States on the basis that you are using their currency in order to avoid the consequences of sanctions that arise from that, let's walk away from the dollar. And hence there's a global discussion taking place about that, and some of it is bilateral. When Russia trades with China, there's no reason why they must use dollars to exchange. None. I saw that even India is saying the same thing. So globally, there's a discussion that is taking place to say we must find alternative means of trading among ourselves and not subject ourselves to the situation where there's one currency in the world which becomes the global reserve currency, because it gives the country that is the issuer of the money, that's the United States, it gives it the power to impose its will on everybody because you are depending on the dollar.
That is all I had for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. It is goodbye from me.